supports 2 million military. Right now, it is a dedication to a plaque for a 9/11 survivor tree. The tree is being planted in front of the New York City Fire Museum in Hudson Square, which contains the first permanent memorial to the 343 members of the FDNY who lost their lives on September 11th. Let's watch as the ceremony begins.
It's diversity. That's what we do here. And today, we fulfill that mission by dedicating this tree to the members of the FDNY and others who made the supreme sacrifice based on their work at the World Trade Center in the rescue and recovery efforts. Let me read to you the plaque that we're going to unveil today. This tree, a seedling grown from the 9/11 Memorial Survivor Tree, is dedicated to every FDNY member, first responder, and New Yorker who has perished as a result of illnesses attributed to the attacks of September 11, 2001 at the World Trade Center. May this tree live on as a symbol of our everlasting memory of them. Today, after today's ceremony, we'll have the tree mounted on a special stand within the tree bed itself, so people who walk by will be able to see and read the plaque. I'd like to thank several people who actually made this possible today. First, Anthony Gardner from the September 11th Memorial Museum. Anthony is in charge of the Survivor Tree program and it was gracious enough to allow us to have one of these trees. They are very special, and not everyone has that opportunity. I'd like to thank Stephen Perry, who's on the dais. Stephen is the director. Stephen is the director of the Survivor Tree Seedling Program. He is at John Bowen High School, where they actually nurture these trees from seeds and grow them, and it's under his direction. Nave Strauss, I don't know if Nave made it today, but he's from the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation. He's in charge of the street tree program. We actually had to go through them to make sure we could plant a tree here on the street. And also Ellen Bayer and the staff at the Hudson Square Business Improvement District. If you look up and down the streets, our Business Improvement District actually maintains the streetscape. And we had to work with them to ensure that this tree would be welcome here within the neighborhood. I also want to thank some key museum volunteers, Captain Joe Russo, Lieutenant Kevin McGeary, and Firefighter Z. Quinn, who I saw around under the umbrella. Those are the gentlemen who actually pulled out the old root and planted the new tree. They did that under the watchful eye of certified arborist and retired New York City firefighter Rob Cherry, who oversaw the safe handling, transportation, and planting of the tree. And thanks to all of you for coming today. This is really special for us to help the New York City Fire Museum show our gratitude and to honor those who endured and gave so much in the rescue and recovery efforts after September 11th. Now let me introduce the dais, which requires another sheet of paper. The dais kept growing this morning. Representing the Fire Commissioner. The Fire Commissioner is Deputy Assistant Chief Mike Agello, who is the Manhattan Borough Commander. Deputy Assistant Chief Kenan Brennan, Assistant Chief of Fire Prevention. Deputy Assistant Chief Joe Ferrante, is Acting Borough Commander of Brooklyn. Alice Greenwald, where's Alice? The President of the 9/11 Memorial Museum. Stephen Perry, who I've already introduced. Ted Grant, who's the President of the New York Fire Museum's Board of Trustees. And you have met Rabbi Prost Potasnik. I'd like to invite Chief Aiello first to come up and address us with a few words.
Thank you, Gary. Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here this morning representing the Fire Commissioner, Chief of Department, at this ceremony to dedicate a survivor tree here at the New York City Fire Museum. The Fire Museum is a special place for all of us in the FDNY. This institution is home to the history of the fire service in New York City, with antique apparatus once pulled by horses to fight fires and many other historic artifacts from the last few centuries. The traditions of bravery, service, and sacrifice in the FDNY can trace their roots back to the history on display here in what was once an actual firehouse. This museum is also home to the first permanent memorial to the 343 FDNY members killed on September 11th, 2001. Inside that room in the museum, there are images of that terrible day. And you can see the faces of the members who gave their lives rescuing thousands of people from the towers. So it's only fitting that this site of so much history that pays tribute to our fallen members would be the site for the September 11th Memorial Survivor Tree. This tree was nurtured and cared for by students in the agricultural program at John Bone High School in Flushing. They were just babies when we were attacked on September 11th. Some weren't even born yet. But they have learned what took place that day, and they honor the first responders who gave their lives and all the innocent people that were killed. Through participation in the Survivor Tree Project, students cared for more than 450 saplings that were created from seeds harvested from the remarkable Survivor Tree at the World Trade Center site. In 2016, the FDNY Foundation honored those students with the Chief William M. Feehan Fire Safety Education Award. Chief Feehan was among the 343 FDNY members who made the supreme sacrifice on September 11th. Much like the FDNY, this tree is a symbol of strength and resilience. When visitors come to this museum, they will learn of our history, and they will learn the significance of this tree as well. It will continue to grow here for years to come, and it will serve as an enduring symbol of our commitment to never forget. So on behalf of the Fire Commissioner and the Chief of Department, I would like to thank the Executive Director of the Fire Museum, Gary Abanowitz, Alice Greenwald from the September 11th Memorial and Museum, the students and faculty at John Bone High School, as well as everyone else for being here for this wonderful event. Thank you very much.
I neglected to introduce one person on the dais who's very important, Dr. David Prezant. Dr. Prezant is Chief Medical Officer at the FDNY and is Director of the World Trade Center Health Monitoring Program. So thank you, Dr. Prezant, for joining us today. Now I'd like to invite Alice, the President of the 9/11 Memorial and Museum. We have the good fortune of not only calling the folks out at the museum our colleagues, but our friends. So Alice, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so much, Gary, and the gentleman representing the leadership of the FDNY this morning. I'm so pleased to be here today. If you are at all familiar with the 9/11 Memorial Plaza, you know that it contains a grove of hundreds of swamp white oak trees and one very special Callery pear tree. That particular tree once stood in a planter on the Church Street side of the August J. Tobin Plaza at the original World Trade Center. On the day of the 9/11 attacks, it suffered substantial damage as burning debris fell onto the plaza and then following the collapse of two 110-story towers. A month later, in October 2001, recovery workers at Ground Zero salvaged this severely damaged stump of a tree. Despite its scorched and broken branches, they saw something of life there, a hint of promise amidst an otherwise desolate landscape of unimaginable destruction. The tree was removed from the rubble, and it was taken to the Arthur Ross Nursery in Van Cortlandt Park, where in the care of the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation, it was slowly, carefully nursed back to health. When that Callery pear tree left the World Trade Center site in 2001, it stood about 8 feet tall. When it returned to the site in December 2010 to be replanted on the plaza in anticipation of the opening and the dedication of the memorial, it had reached a height of 30 feet. Today, that new growth is evident in smooth limbs that extend from the once gnarled and burned branches, creating a visible demarcation between the tree's past and its present. Known to all as the Survivor Tree, is a testament to endurance, rebirth, and resilience. Every spring, there is a moment I wait for, the day when the buds on the Survivor Tree burst into full blossom. The surrounding oak trees tend to leaf out later in the season, so you have the bare limbs of these hundreds of stately oaks and one glorious explosion of pink and white flowers, signaling the power and the promise of another cycle of seasons. The symbolism of the survivor tree touches everyone, and its seedlings have become a way for the 9/11 Memorial to express solidarity with and compassion for other communities struggling in the aftermath of tragedy, and to affirm for them our own capacity for resilience. Thus far, 18 communities have been selected to receive seedlings since the Survivor Tree Seedling Distribution Program began in September 2013. Among those communities are Newtown, Connecticut, which received a Survivor Tree seedling in 2016 in memory of the 20 children and 6 adults killed at Sandy Hook Elementary. The nation of Haiti, in memory of the numerous deaths suffered as a result of the overwhelming destruction caused by Hurricane Matthew. That seedling was accepted by the Embassy of Haiti in 2017 to be planted in Washington, D.C., and also the City of London to recognize and honor the 72 lives lost following the devastating fire at the Grenfell Tower apartment complex. Each of the recipient communities has committed to planting and nurturing their seedlings so that the trees will serve as landmarks around the world, symbolizing hope and renewal, and embodying a network of connection with the 9/11 Memorial. And now, today, we have a seedling planted right here in front of the New York City Fire Museum, with a connection to the 9/11 Memorial that is even more meaningful in light of our recent dedication of the 9/11 Memorial Glade. Last month, on May 30th, we marked the 17th anniversary of the official close of the rescue and recovery effort at the World Trade Center site, the 9-month effort there. As part of that commemoration, we formally dedicated the Glade, a new component of the memorial that honors everyone in perpetuity who are suffering or have died from illnesses caused by exposure to toxins and to hazards in the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks. Memorials rarely change, but we knew that building the Glade was imperative if we were to fulfill our mission of telling the complete story of 9/11. The centerpiece of the Glade is a pathway that mirrors the location of the main ramp used by workers during the recovery effort. This pathway is flanked by 6 enormous granite monoliths that appear to break the surface of the plaza and rise up, pushing their way out of the ground. They are rough, they are worn, and their angle suggests a forceful resistance, an answer to the violence that brought them forth. By connoting firmness, stability, and faithfulness through adversity, the stone elements underscore the Glade's other purpose, which is to recognize the tremendous capacity of the human spirit, as exemplified during the rescue, recovery, and relief efforts in the selflessness and dedication, determination, and perseverance that inspired the world and helped our city and our nation to heal. If you haven't yet seen the Glade, I hope you'll stop by, I hope you'll visit, and spend some time in this verdant, reflective space. It's a space whose mission to commemorate and to inspire is now shared and will be amplified by the Survivor Tree seedling here at the New York City Fire Museum. As we've heard, it has been planted in memory of every FDNY member, first responder, and New Yorker who has perished as a result of 9/11 related illnesses. And it will grow and it will thrive, testify, and honor. I hope you'll allow me just a few more minutes to acknowledge the people behind the Survivor Tree Seedling Program. Back in 2013, the 9/11 Memorial, in partnership with Bartlett Tree experts and the New York City Board of Education, provided seeds harvested from the Survivor Tree to students of the John Bowne High School in Queens as part of a project to teach students about agriculture and the history of 9/11. I want to thank David McMaster from Bartlett Tree Experts for his time and his guidance. And I also want to express our deep appreciation to Steve Perry, Assistant Principal and Head of Agriculture at John Bowne, for his service and dedication to this project. We all owe Steve a debt of gratitude. Today, thanks to him and his students, Hundreds of seedlings, many standing over 10 feet tall, are ready to be planted in permanent locations around the world. It is now my pleasure to introduce Steve Perry.
Good morning, honored guests. I can't begin to express how humbled I am to have the opportunity to address you today regarding the 9/11 Survivor Tree Seedling Project. I stand before you today representing just 1/3 of the institutions responsible for the possibility of germinating, cultivating, and growing these seedlings. As a result of the Bartlett Tree Expert Company, specifically David McMaster, Regional Vice President, who is here today along with Lauren Daly and Nora Byrne of the 9/11 Memorial Museum. We are honored to be allowed to be the caretakers of these seedlings and take part in providing them to memorials throughout the world. The trees that are housed on our school farm in a greenhouse provided by Bartlett Tree Experts serve not only as a teaching material for instruction in arboriculture, pruning, potting, and fertilizing, but also provide us the opportunity to educate our students regarding the events of 9/11, a time before they were born, and explain to them the immense responsibility and honor they have to be lucky enough to provide the opportunity to care for these trees that will eventually go out to memorials in order to assist in the healing process for those who have lost loved ones or who were affected in other ways from these monumental tragic events. Personally, this huge responsibility has provided me the honor of getting to meet the many fine firefighters, their families, friends, and hearing the stories of loved ones lost and their service and life accomplishments. This little seedling planted before us this morning represents the continuance of life, even after a most horrific event, and the promise for a future for those affected families, as well as an assurance that we will always remember them and their sacrifice. This little tree will one day stand tall as we do in defiance of threats to our freedom and way of life. On September 1st, I conclude my 36-year career with the New York City Department of Education, and I take with me many memories and experiences. My involvement in this project will always remain as one of the most important and memorable. So much so that I hope to be able to continue to work with my program in assuring for its continuance and assisting with the tree care and distribution for many, many years to come. Thank you for allowing me to address you today, and thank you for providing me with the honor to be involved in this amazing program. Thank you.
I'd now like to ask Ms. Greenwald, Mr. Grant, Chief Magello, and Mr. Perry. Huh? Oh, okay. The whole days. Lieutenant LaPointe is in charge.
Gary read the wording on the plaque. Let me also say that we as Jews often turn to each other and say l'chaim, which means to life. Actually, it really means to lives, because you cannot write life in the singular in the Hebrew language. So we remember lives taken from us since 9/11, but we also remember lives given to us since 9/11. The poet wrote years ago, "May you live as long as you have life to live, and may you love as long as you have love to give." You come here today with life and with love for one another.
We've been watching a dedication ceremony for a 9/11 memorial survivor tree that will be planted in front of the New York City Fire Museum in Hudson Square. It's dedicated to every FDNY member, first responder, and New Yorker who died as a result of 9/11 related illnesses. And the really interesting and special thing about this is the seeds from the tree that was harvested from the survivor tree at the World Trade Center site is where this tree was then grown from and then planted, symbolizing hope, renewal, and resilience. Right now, we're going to take a quick break, but coming up, we'll be right back here on CBSN New York. See you then.